to the damn old hard drive. There it goes. Welcome to the PARAcast. I'm your host, Tomas the Boss Fernandez. Joining you, I said last week was 341. This is actually 341. It's kind of a big deal. If you guys, well, I did.
Know, you know.
If you know, you know. Where I did a podcast, an old podcast that lasted 340 episodes, and now I am more known for the PARAcast than I was ever known for that show. So,
yeah, but that show was big.
But
at one point that thing was huge.
Yeah, it was a big show. That's because only 8 or 9 podcasts had existed. When you start in 2008, like you just have to put together a half decent podcast, and it was pretty big. But
yeah.
Still.
So you were cool.
So, yep.
10 years ago.
10 years.
12 years ago.
15 years.
What was the biggest thing? It was like the Tiger Light or something you guys got all jazzed about?
Well, we had that one thing with the Tiger Light. Like, people were... It was a very weird thing. Anyways, we'll talk about it a little bit. Anyways, let's do the intros. Joining me tonight, hide the NyQuil. He's making sleepy chicken for dinner. It's Robert Wyatt.
Yeah, but, I mean, who doesn't put NyQuil in their chicken?
You gotta boil it.
Question is,
first you choke it and then you put it to sleep.
I didn't know if it was actual chicken disc or if it was just a drink that you called the sleepy chicken.
No, well you
Yes.
you take chicken and you boil it in NyQuil and then you eat it. That's the TikTok trend. That's the sleepy chicken. They have to tell people not to boil NyQuil. It could be terribly dangerous. Also, to catch a master jewel thief, he must become a rapist. It's Jared Stepp.
Look,
that went dark quickly.
They meet eventually. Okay. Eventually, you go after the family jewels. It works out.
That's an Adam Carolla ripoff joke. I have to give him credit where it's due. And they called in the House of Speed because of the meth lab in his basement. It's Jon Bautista.
Hello, gentlemen. Did I do that?
meth explosion. All neighborhood. Poor
said,
neighborhood.
Like, House of Speed for as fast as he gives COVID to people.
But,
that totally works too.
It was allergies, right, John? That's what I heard. It was allergies.
It was allergies, damn it. It was allergies.
So let's start with your guys' footloose and fancy free week last week, and it starts with heading out to Tennessee, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And John has allergies when you guys meet up to fly out to... Okay, all right, we'll go from there. Robert, go ahead.
Allergies.
Yeah, sure. So, dude, like, I woke up, Wednesday morning, like 4 a.m, hop on an airplane, get a layover in Denver for 2 hours, and at that point, I'm dying. There's not enough caffeine in the world to keep me going, but it's like, fine, whatever. Catch the next flight, get into Tennessee, and I'm there for like 15 minutes. John and Jason, they show up, and I mean, immediately as like I'm sitting just sitting waiting for him to get there, and all of a sudden I see John come walking up, and he's just bent over hacking up a lung, and I'm like, okay, well this is maybe it was just something on the airplane, and I'm like, you okay? And he's like, oh yeah, I just got really bad allergies. My sinuses, they're just really struggling right now, and I was like, okay, well good luck with that. I've already had COVID, so I'm totally safe, right? Right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And don't think much of it. Hop in the Suburban or whatever that thing was. It was a Yukon, I don't know. But
Yukon.
It was a Yukon.
Yeah.
Obama down the street. Going to Nashville and hung out there for a night. Then drove, and we shot the Tennessee sectional and
Atomic Blast.
The Atomic Blast, which I understand. I understand that there was some controversial stuff that happened. There were some people that were a little bit upset about it. We shot it on staff day. John had actually gotten in touch with the match director and said, hey, can we shoot this thing with the staff, because it wasn't previously
we had
allowed.
to request it. We actually had to request to go on Friday staff day,
Yeah.
because all the locals will shoot it Saturday. I think it was Saturday only.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we had to ask the MD for that special privilege.
And he was very kind. He totally let us do it. So we showed up. We looked at the stage real quick on Thursday, and they were pretty straightforward. There was nothing like holy crap exceptional. There was some stuff that was like, oh, this is a little on the quasi shoot through stuff, like just little things. Little things.
Is this
that
like a
add up.
state match or a regional or?
It is supposed to be kind of a state level match.
And is that because their sectional has another state that's probably, or a club or something that's rotates in through? Because that's normally when they have them as sectionals.
That's a great question. I really don't know. They've done this thing a number of years, and who was talking to the match director. He said it might be their last year. They didn't really know, but the stages were pretty straightforward. There's nothing. I don't know. It was
Robert's being kind. I'll say it in a little more straightforward fashion. From a guy who's coming from California, and if I were to ask myself, hey, would I want to spend the money for the flight, the hotel, to specifically go to this match alone? I would say no. And Robert's being kind, but I'll say a little more direct. There's a couple things about that match that seems a little bit. They could elevate their game because it seems kind of like a club that was trying to make a major happen, and they need one or two more majors to kind of cycle through to make it more robust, like a Utah State. If you put Utah State and Tennessee side by side, Utah State is clearly a better quality match. Tennessee is getting up there. There's clearly effort by the match director, the guys there. I mean, clearly people really want to make this match happen, but there's a few things that Robert and I were looking at that we would not do at our range, or we would have taken care of those kind of questionable shoot throughs as a competitor. And it was kind of obvious as a guy who travels a little bit more than most people. It's like, I wouldn't travel to Tennessee alone, but if it was like what we did this weekend with Tennessee and Carolina Classic, a definite, we could bundle them together, but I would not travel this on a solo.
So is it literally just finishing touches?
Exactly.
There's a lot of finishing touches.
Polish.
Well, it's stuff like that, but it's things like they use some barrels. And instead of painting the barrels black, they just put black duct tape on it to mark the where you get a shoot through or something like that. So there's things like that. There was stages. There was one of those X stages where, honestly, if they were calling the 180, we would have sent half the squad home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was really that way. And so, and these are all of these things is kind of what Jon was speaking to, is that in and of themselves, they're neat little concepts, but they needed somebody to actually show up who had like real solid major match experience to be like, okay, guys, if we take this X stage and all we do is we rotate it, let's see, they could have rotated it about like 15 degrees. It literally would have solved like 99% of the 180 issues.
Right.
Stuff like that. Little things that just add up to be like, okay, well, first you can kind of shake it off, but then it's like, okay, well, now it's on stage 2, now it's on stage 5, 7, 9. It doesn't mean that it was a bad match. It means that it was basically, it kind of felt like a level 1 that was trying really hard to put on a level 2.
Yeah.
And if they are smart, and I assume they are, I mean, give everybody all the credit in the world. If they're smart about it and they take all this information and they take it and they run it again next year, I'd be willing to bet you that they put together a level 2 that is something they can go and they can hang their hat on and say, okay, we learned all of our lessons. And that's what you want.
Yeah, well,
you see that with a lot of area matches where they'll hold the area match in the same place twice, because the first time they're developing the infrastructure, and then the second time, that's when they really got everything figured out.
And every single time you run a big match, you learn a lot every single time. And the big thing is trying to learn from that and saying, okay, this year the prize table is buggered up somehow. I need to change this next year. This year it was this. This year this. We need to change this. We need to change this. And trying to keep that running tally and making it better every single year.
Yeah,
that's the huge thing.
Well, that's the other part, I guess, to that is like you have to have like the nitpick of the stage, right? You have to have the non-critical eye. It's like the old Sanhedrin back in the time of Jesus, going way back here. is that they couldn't.
You're saying I have to invite a bunch of Jews to my match?
Well, you have to invite them. But
I knew I liked this PARAcast. It's getting good.
This is the one that gets canceled.
I
But
thought we were here to talk about ghosts.
so you couldn't have
Jews.
you couldn't have a universal vote for guilty, right, in the Sanhedrin, right? So you couldn't have 77 votes for someone to be guilty. So you need that critical eye that walks around and says what's wrong with every stage. And you need to have a couple people who go there, and then you can sit there and you can turn it. Because I think a lot of people
Tommy, speaking directly to that, that is the job of the range master.
Yeah.
The range master should have gone through and proved these stages. And I don't know the range master. I'm not going to say one bad thing about them. I can say one of the most difficult things to teach a range master, even going through the program, is the ability to debug a stage, which is actually what you're supposed to be good at as an RM. But secondly, match flow. So the match flow for us seemed to work pretty well, but it was on staff day. But
match flow is God.
It really is, and you have to figure that out. Put a pin in that because we're going to talk about that at North Carolina. But the thing about this one was debugging a stage is really hard for a lot of people if they have never shot any other division besides, say, a high cap division, because they'll look at the world from a high cap shooter. If they don't ever look at it from the standpoint of how does a revolver shoot this thing? Break it down to the most basic level. How does a very low cap gun shoot this stage? They're never going to try and actually develop a stage plan that would potentially open up the idea of, oh no, there's a shoot through. And they don't think about that stuff. Well, and as you gain experience as a range master, you start to figure that out, and that's the ideal. And I think it's just one of those things that you just have to do it a lot to really figure it out. It's the same with match flow. You just have to do it a lot to really understand.
So, question for you guys. Obviously, I don't think you guys have been to this match before.
No, not this one. This was
first. What made you decide to come to this match?
John?
I'll answer that. The double match weekend. Yeah. So Robert and I have a mission every year to commingle two matches on the same weekend, meaning we shoot one Friday, typically all day, and we shoot the second on Sunday, typically all day. Last year it was Area 4 in Georgia State. This year it was Tennessee and Carolina Classic, and it worked out perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you just look for two matches that are held on the same weekend,
geographical area, if possible,
because you like pain.
Into it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And John did the disease.
This year was any indicator, I like COVID, because I got it last year coming out of Georgia State, and I got it this year coming out of Carolina.
I'm building your immune system, sir. I am building it.
Just keep spitting in his mouth.
John is the way through the pandemic. Just everyone hang out with John. The one thing that you can also have with match directors too is, like, depending on the staff that's there who's actually setting up the match before it's actually laid down and shot, you can just have a lot of people who are like, if the match director doesn't see it and he says it's good, build it, then they don't have a critical enough eye to sit there and judge it, and so they will do it because a lot of times that's just respect for the match director. Like, Jared says it's ready, it can be built, so we built it, we don't see the issue. Jared didn't see the issue because he's got 37 different things on his mind, and so you can have stuff like that can pop up.
Right.
Yeah. And that's absolutely true.
And then I get to the stage and I'm like, what the hell did you guys do?
You massacred my boy.
And then you're like, I didn't approve of this. Then you remember in their head, hey, is this stage okay? And you went, yes, that stage is fine. Can you help out on 7? It goes on.
And then we post videos of that stage, and we get calls from random guys from the club saying, you have guys running up on the berm. They can't do that. Crap.
All right, so Carolina.
So we shot that match. The next day, we drove from
4 hours,
Oak Ridge, Tennessee, 4 hours into North Carolina.
In Salisbury, where I nearly died.
Yeah. So, and at that point, back up just a little bit. So on match day, John was turning into a son of a bitch, and he was getting all moody and attitudey. because his COVID was in full effect. And
because he didn't feel well.
Oh, sorry.
Johnny didn't feel good. His allergies were flaring up. Gosh, my lower back hurts like a son of a bitch. These allergies.
I can't smell because of the allergies.
I couldn't breathe.
Chinese because of the allergies. I want to eat that bat because of the allergies.
And so the along the way, we figured this out like just before we flew, but Southwest basically screwed us because we were originally, our flights were set so that we would finish the match in the Carolinas and we had enough time to get to the airport and then catch our plane. But Southwest went and actually canceled John's flight and they moved mine up an hour.
Oh, so you guys are on the rush.
So now we're on the rush. So we're sitting there, we're trying to figure it out, but we drive in there. We get to the range on Saturday and immediately go and find the match director, and I cannot remember his name to life of me. He's actually Outdoor Dynamics on Instagram.
The owner.
Yeah, he's the owner of that. And I go talk to him, and we explain the situation, and they were sweet. They were so damn accommodating. They're like, give us a second. We're going to see if we can figure this out. And so he ran off. He talked to Stephanie Berry and said, can we make this thing work? And they said, okay, we're going to have you shoot your last 2 stages of the day today. So stick around. About 5 o'clock, the match is generally going to end. And then we'll just have you guys shoot through those 2 stages. And we're like, that's perfect, because that basically represented about an hour and a half worth of
That's nice of them, though.
Oh, there's a key thing about that, though, guys, is the fact that the Carolina Classic was a staff reset match.
Yep.
So our disappearance would not have impacted our actual squad because we're not resetting. So to lose 2, 3, 4 guys, it does nothing to the squad. It's more or less we're using the staff a little more on Saturday to accommodate us.
Yep.
And
That's
they
very
were
kind of
helping.
Oh, they were fantastic. And John and I were talking about this. If it was regular staff reset, we never could have done it, because I just it would have been too big of a dick move to be like, yeah, screw you guys, we're going home.
Yep.
Did you have to name drop ye men?
We did, and they said we voted for Bruce, and that was
no. It was more of my mouth.
Oh, that's right. We volunteered the services.
I like the idea of Robert going up to them and being like, "This is my son, John. He's got the yuckies. We need to finish up and get through this. His allergies have caused him to have 103 fever, and his back is blown out, and his feet are swollen. Can we get through this? Also, he can't taste the food, so any lunch is fine."
I'm not saying that John was really bad at that point, but he did how he left us. We went and looked at the stages, and he went and left us and went and sat in the back of the truck.
I went to the car to the air conditioning.
With the air conditioning.
And I didn't tell the guys what's going on until Robert comes back into the car to find me like taking a nap. And he finally asked, going, "Hey John, what's wrong?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't feel so good. My sinus is crazy." And finally Robert's like, "I got Sudafed. Hold on." I take the 2 Sudafed, and I swear to God, I came back to life. At that point,
I like that John.
Advil.
John has like, I don't think this lie's gonna keep working. Oh my gosh, I don't think it's been allergies for 2 days. God help me.
Presses and holds X for 15 seconds and revives John.
And
back in the match. Let's go.
And Carolina is as advertised, correct, as far as match quality?
100%.
The Carolina Classic was a fantastic match, and so Stephanie Berry's the section coordinator. Ben Berry's her husband. He's running for Area 6. John was the match director. It is all staff reset, and they did a fantastic job. The stages were very well thought out, and the match flowed extremely well. This is one thing I thought was really interesting. If you looked at the bays, they actually staggered the stages. So instead of it going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of thing, it actually went 1, 9, 2, 8.
What?
because they were trying to increase the amount of distance a competitor would have to travel. And it's not like it's that much, but that was one of the ways that they were working through the idea of stage flow.
So
Stage flow.
It's worth a
I don't
shooter
know.
and a half.
I feel like that's some squirrely Dan shit.
Well, you still go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You just have to go. You just have to take it in terms of like you just have to cross over a bay to get to it. But talking to their range master, he says that's what they had come up with, and he said it seems to be working out pretty well.
I guess that works if you have good staff and competitors who aren't cops.
This is true. This is true.
I'm going to
can
shoot
barely
this one
remember
now.
which house to kick the door in on.
I don't understand.
The prize table's a buffet. You take what you want.
There's a dog here. I need to shoot it.
Would you like a job with the ATF? Yes.
So, just a question about the staff reset. So, is the staff reset reflected in the match prize, or do they just have that much volunteers to basically have enough people to RO and help reset?
It was volunteers. It was volunteers like Georgia State. They did not increase the match fee that you would even seem like you would have to. You paid extra for the service. There was enough support in Area 6. I mean, Area 8 has the kind of a similar thing where there's such a high quantity of people in a very small area that they can pull from to make staff reset happen.
Yeah, I think they must have bred into the culture just this idea of volunteerism, so that when they put together a large match, they get the people they need, which is really, really impressive. They're doing something right.
So did you guys? How does that work so the staff goes and resets everything, and do you guys just keep doing walkthroughs, or like
you just sit?
Yeah, you sit, you relax,
you sit
you're
there,
in the shade, you
drink
chill.
some liquid IV.
Yep,
have some gummy bears.
Yes, sir.
You take
in John's case takes a lot of Sudafed.
Take your antibodies test. Put it in your pocket before anyone sees it.
Throw down as much Robitussin as possible.
I was trying, boys. I was on like 5 different drugs on that day.
Let's go.
All right. Sounds like I'm going to take this Mucinex, and I'm like, no.
Everything is blocked.
You just hack it.
Everything is plugged.
Just hack Mucinex. That stuff's garbage.
I took everything, dude.
So let's talk about performance. How'd you guys both shoot? Let's talk about Tennessee first. Let's talk about Atomic.
Tennessee, I shot fine. It was I can't remember where I came in, but I think I shot an okay match. I felt like I shot aggressive. I got good points on it, so I wasn't shooting super crazy like I thought I would. I never really seemed to get into that mode, and but I never, at the same time, I never really crashed through that match.
Well, I pulled up, I was looking at Practice Score Competitor has a thing called penalty time, that if you look at any individual stage of a competitor, you can see how much their points converted into time and how much they were doing. And Robert had like a 67% reduction in penalty time from an average, like you take a 7 hit factor stage from Utah State, take a 7 hit factor stage from Tennessee, and like instead of having like 3.6 seconds of penalty time, he's got 1.72 seconds of penalty time, or 1.5 seconds of penalty time. And so I thought that was kind of an interesting way to breaking it down, of seeing how well he was shooting, because he was still effectively, his splits didn't really seem to change, but his penalty time dropped, which I wonder if it's if you don't feel like you ever got into the race, go get it out mode, maybe it's a perception thing and not, because like
could be
the splits are the splits and the stages are different. Like that's
it's always hard in terms of perception when you're squatted with people who are just so much better than you.
Yeah.
Because you watch them shoot, and then you shoot, and you're like, man, I was 2 seconds slower than John, 2 seconds slower than John, and it just keeps adding up, and you're like, man, I just suck. But
yeah, that's rough.
And so you use that as your metric, and I think you're naturally going to be like, okay, well, I just sucked. But then you see the results, and you're like, okay, I didn't suck as bad as I thought I did, which is fantastic. I know I'm shooting better, but yeah. And then roll into Carolina Classic, and I did well right up until what was it? I think it was stage 6, and it was like 6 and 7, or no, 5 and 6, excuse me. And actually got to meet Sean Edmonds and his wife, and like on those 2 stages. And then I made some decisions on stage 5 that hurt me, and then I rolled into stage 6. Yeah, stage 6, and that was an interesting situation. And just, I mean, I completely missed. I didn't even shoot at 2 targets, so I straight up zeroed the stage. But it was an interesting situation, and I'm just gonna say I own all that, like 100%. I really do.
Yeah.
But one of the things that happened, and I wrote this down afterwards because it just became something I'm like, I'm always gonna remember this, which was we had an RO there. It was this guy, and I step up to the start position, and he's like, make ready. And I was like, wait a minute. And I turn around, and I'm like, what? He's like,
is this trap?
Really? And he's like, and he was like, make ready. And I was like, do you want me to make ready? Yeah.
Is he the horse whisperer? Is he the shooter whisperer? What is he doing?
And it was the funniest thing because
smooth jazz.
Yeah.
On stage 7.
And
make ready.
It so got me out of like my head that I was like, I go and I get the gun ready and everything. Okay, I get all holstered up, whatever. And then I'm just like, okay, let's go. But like in the back of my mind, there's this teeny tiny make ready that I couldn't shake.
Is this guy gonna rape me?
Yeah. And so I go through, I shoot the stage, and I miss these 2 targets, zero the stage out. But it came out of this like, I finished thing, I walk back. This is really interesting because we had a guy in our squad who was having what you might affectionately call a really rough day. How rough, might you ask? He threw his phone across the parking lot.
On purpose?
Oh, yes.
Nice.
It was not going well for him, and he was very disturbed. And he had done that just prior, like on the stage prior. And so I zero the stage out. I get it, but I'm coming back, and in the back of my head, I'm sitting here saying, no matter what you do, keep a smile on your face and just let it roll off your back.
Yeah.
Because do not, under any circumstance, be a complete asshat like this guy was.
Right, you're a professional.
I don't mean to like denigrate what happened. It was a bad match. But I was just like,
did he kill a baby or what?
No, the dude, we kind of talked about it afterwards, and I think he came into the match thinking that his performance was going to be here, but his skill level was here.
Tony Cowden did.
Oh, he
kind of did. And so when
he ran into everyone's friend reality.
Yeah, and then they actually had to go, and they at equipment check, they made him fix his holster because his holster was out of spec, or not out of spec, but it didn't comply. And so it was just all these things that were just compounding on it. And by the time that incident with him happened, he was pretty much he was done. And I felt bad for the dude. I really did. But it was like, coming off of that, I'm just like, you keep your crap together, smile, joke around about it. I mean, yeah, it sucks. It sucked horribly because I actually went through afterwards and I did the what if on it. And it would have been one of those situations where like I would have like taken first A class. And it's just like, well, there are lessons that you learn from everything, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
So, but that's what it is, right? It's a fantastic match. Awesome. I mean, everybody there should be absolutely proud of themselves for how well they put on a match and how well they represented their club and their section.
And this is South Carolina, correct?
This is North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Oh,
I apologize.
Yeah. So
he doesn't know the difference either way.
They represented very well.
John?
So for me, in terms of like what Robert just said about that guy, I can tell you kind of probably what's in his head. Because in Tennessee, I shot very nervously, almost like too excited, to the point where like I'm just happy that I'm not working. I'm on vacation, about to shoot a match. But that was not conducive of performing well. If you ever been in a match and you're about to shoot a stage, you're about to get up, and for whatever reason, you got the little bit of that anxiety, that excitement that's in like the back of your heart, but you can never shake it. You're about to shoot, the RO is about to say stand by, and all you can feel is this like you're walking on eggshells.
Jitters.
Like you want to do something well. Exactly. You want to do well, but then when you do the thing, you really can't do it at all. And I understand where that guy's head is at, and that was me in all Tennessee, where I was not focused enough in the right place, and my energy was more in that anxiety jitters moment instead of being calm. And that's why I didn't perform as well as I could have in Tennessee. On the flip side, in the Carolinas, I was just drugged up. And I was really happy that I was getting over my sinuses. And I was shooting a match.
Just having that. KFC have the sleepy chicken. Do they have the sleepy chicken recipe? I gotta get me some sleepy chicken.
So I was like,
Sunday morning, I did wake up and like my throat's like kind of like tickling in the back of my throat, and I'm like, wait a damn minute.
Allergies, huh?
Allergies.
The allergies. Allergies.
He put his allergies in my throat.
In the Masada Yube classes, there's something that's interesting that's being said about the jitters, and they talk about one of the first IPSC world champions, Ray Chapman. Back in the day, like where they used to have like these Cooper barricades, and they used to have like walls you would have to jump over and to shoot. Inside these matches to shoot them.
You have to jump over a wall?
Yeah, they had.
Dude,
that's awesome.
IPSC.
I want to do that now.
If you go watch some of those videos,
the old
they're
IPSC
jumping over walls, and they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh hell
stuff
yeah!
That today people are like competitive equity. That's not fair.
And
we can't do that.
And like nowadays, we have holsters that could hold the gun safely.
Yeah, they had start positions that would have you jumping over something to make sure that the holster would actually retain the gun.
Oh, I like it. I want to do that.
Chapman would talk about getting the jitters and the shakes. And they would say, like, how do you deal with that, Ray? And he goes, I'm getting an adrenaline dump. I'm going to think faster. I'm going to be stronger. And I know how to deal with it more than anybody else. And you have all these other guys standing around taking beta blockers to relax themselves. I am getting my natural just speed going there. And so like I literally have the jitters like every stage, even on a club match. Well, first stage on the club match or something like that. Like I always feel a little shaky, and I just think of Ray Chapman. Like just like I got it. And it's like, and more of the times, like when you have your best stages and when you're feeling jittery, you feel like you've shot slow. And it's like that's the process time. Like when you're in the zone, that's all that is the tachypsyche of you slowing down and processing things. It's like if you play race car simulators, or like you're just sitting there and like we can think about the sights all day long of what they're doing, but like understand of what the jitters are, man. Like that is like fight or flight, and that's like strength and speed. So when you feel that, just all you got to think about is like grab the gun, see the sight, hit the first position.
Exactly, because you're riding the lightning. Like the lightning has struck you, and it's up to you to put two hands on it, or it's going to put you on your ass. It's like one or the other.
Yeah, and it's just like there's just the safety protocol of like, for the love of God, hit the first spot and see the sights. But because we've all, especially with the dot, we've all done the thing where it's just like, well, I should be shooting now. You don't have a dot, but I should be shooting now.
Do you know what you do in that? You send two anyway.
You start setting two.
The recoil will get that dot into position.
Yeah.
I found myself shooting at a piece of steel through a port last night. At a night match in the Plitchwack, and I fire and I get a ding, and it's like a 20-yard steel target, and then I'm like firing and I don't get a ding. And I'm like, Thomas, where's the dot? And I'm like, oh, I'm not even using the dot. There, bing. I don't even have the dot in the window. It's not up or down. It's to the right.
I am not sure.
I am not. What am I doing?
I can't tell you how many times I've started a stage and that gun comes out and I'm like right in position. I'm like, there's no dot there. But the time is going. That's it. Send it now.
Yeah.
You fire the first shot, the second shot. No, there comes the dot. Oh, better adjust.
Well,
do it now.
It is.
Go.
It is crazy that how we think of the jitters, and like we don't frame it in the proper perspective. Is like my body gave me like I just got the luck roll that I just rolled a 20 on getting an adrenaline dump to do this, and like so therefore. I can push harder, and like hopefully you get it on a big field course where you're going to be able to sit there and push it. So Ray Chapman, everybody, look him up.
That was my area. So I shot area 4 on Friday. So as Robert came home after the match, just to go a little more on the mental side, area 4 was probably one of my better matches. Kind of like how I shoot locals, where I don't ride the lightning, I don't get the jitters. I know somehow in my brain the ways to kind of like mentally tap that jitters and turn it into arrogant confidence. where I have that ride of lightning behind me, but it's not controlling me. I have it in the pocket. So when the buzzer does go off, it feeds into my confidence of execution and doing what I have to do instead of it letting it creep on you and almost like shake you up as you shoot, going like, oh, you're going too slow. Oh, you're sucking. Oh no, the timer's off. You missed the steal. Oh no, oh no, oh no. And that is kind of the thing that most people will forever try to figure out, but will never figure it out, depending upon how you really build your mental game.
Yep. Well, the other part is like, you're the only guy you get to shoot with, so get used to yourself.
Well, one thing that's odd is I actually found out that I shoot so much better when I shoot with one of my buddies. And he's almost like a hype man or something, where if you have somebody there who's just like, dude, that was awesome, yeah. After every
he's got a
stage,
fluffer.
He's just like, yeah, dude, that was so good. And
it's so heavy. It's so heavy, Jared.
It's so great. It's so great. And you actually shoot better, though. You actually genuinely do shoot better when you have someone there helping you get through that mental process, versus if you're shooting and you're trying to like, oh God, I'm going to do this. And then you shoot with a super squad and you're like, oh man, I'm behind Kinney by like 5 seconds every single stage. Oh man, I suck. And it's just.
No, I think there's absolutely something to that. I learned coming out of 5 that I am my own worst enemy in so many of these things, like really badly. Like
you need a hype man.
You really do. I mean, and in my case, I need something just to get my mind off of it.
Well, it's like,
generally speaking, that's I'm pulling out my earbuds and I'm putting the AirPods in and listening to Taylor Swift, because it's a pretty good way to go. But fundamentally, what it does more than anything, it gets me to stop thinking about all the crap that I did previously, because I can't let it go. Normally, I have to. It just sits in the back of your head, and you're like, you dumb idiot, why'd you do this?
Yeah, well, it can be like a self-correcting process, but that's like all things in life. Like, we are the person that we contend with the most.
Oh yeah,
we are everyone's worst enemy, worst villain is ourselves, and so like, it's all like either like forget it, but like the other thing is like you can't hide it. It's like you do something wrong, you can't hide it in the mist, you can't forget it. So like you actually have to learn that lesson immediately. Like sometimes you have to learn that lesson between the beeps.
Mm-hmm.
Like you make that mistake, you got to learn that lesson immediately right then, and then the other part is like you still have to learn that farther on. It's just having the negative attitude if you're not that good, you got to do something with that.
And this is one of the advantages of shooting 2 major matches in the same weekend, is that you can go shoot like Tennessee in this case, and you can take all of the things that you screwed up on in that match and be like, okay, because in the next match I'm gonna do all these things, because we all do that. We shoot Utah State and we're like, okay, here's all my lessons, and then you're like, hopefully you remember it by the time you have another major that rolls around. But when you have one like in a day,
right,
you immediately take that into and be like, okay, I know how to resolve this problem right now.
Right. You're muttering to yourself, transitions, hustle. Okay. Have that urgency, have that speed. Okay.
And then if you're lucky, you'll see a 3% increase because there's no magic.
There's no magic, but at the same time, there's so much of this where, I mean, everybody talks about the mental aspect of it, and I think that it really is. There's a lot of mental behind most of this stuff. And there's the mechanics, and there's things when you get to like John's level, everything becomes important. When you're still coming up, there's a lot of mental where you have to just start talking nicer to yourself for a little bit.
Yep.
You can't just sit there and just run yourself into the ground. I mean, John does it all the time, but actually you should see him. He can be a real asshole.
Yes, Zig Heil, sir. I will drive you to the ground until you do what you need to do.
Yeah. The people that we were shooting with, like John walked off one of the stages when we were looking at stages, and like we looked at each other, and I'm like, is John okay? And he's like, yeah, he's normally not this way, but he's kind of being a fucking asshole today. And I was like, yeah, and that's not the John I know.
So to be honest,
he's got the Yankees and Sudafed pisses him off. He's raging on Sudafed.
My sinuses were getting to me, but there's something that I was trying to figure out from my buddies. Robert is who I usually travel with, and I had 2 other friends who are locals in San Diego And we're walking through, and there is something to be said about overwalking a stage. Because
I picked that up. That's true.
Kind of like that guy who threw his phone across in the parking lot. If you walk a stage so hard that you pretty much build yourself this disposition, I must do this, instead of having a little more free flowing because the gun is not in your hand, you end up building this, again, levels of expectation that's far too high because you're like, oh yeah, this is easy. Oh yeah, I could do this. Oh yeah, I could do this move when you do the walkthrough.
I like how you turn into a Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, we're thinking about Area 5.
I could do that.
We're thinking about Area 5, so it's like,
Take off.
Yeah. But
oh yeah, don't you know I could shoot that 2 times faster? Sorry.
But what I was trying to get Robert and my buddies to do is like, hey, relax, just get the plan going, but don't make it so solid because when we're there in the morning, how many times have you actually changed your plan because you saw someone else actually shoot it and go,
oh man,
what I thought is not a good idea.
That last stage we shot at Tennessee, I went before everybody, and they all changed it like immediately after because they saw somebody else shoot it, and then they go through it, and it was what they shot was correct. It was a damn good plan, right? It was really
that's
good.
Great.
And I look at it, and I'm like, I want that stage back, please.
Yeah.
Everyone makes the decision.
I mean, that was one of those like 2-second advantage type stages. It was just huge.
Well, I'm glad you guys had fun. Let's talk about the night match. That's what we went out there. Oh, by the way, Red Rock Rumble. Congratulations to one Kenny Terry for winning limited.
Yeah, but
oh, he did.
Yeah,
he did.
Attaboy.
He went into this morning. He was behind Bob.
You know, he should really start this thing where he instead of digging himself out of a gigantic hole the second day at every match, he should try getting a lead and then maintaining it for the whole match.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think that, except for, I mean, Kenny Terry, I mean, he apparently has gone to the school of Elias Frangoulis, and he just likes to shoot himself in the foot for the first 7 or 8 stages before he pulls out this hand of God kind of miracle.
Well,
and
he's
crushes the world.
You look at the
I like Elias.
I do too. I love him. He's the sweetest guy.
I gotta shoot Utah State with him a couple years back, and he's
Isn't he
a
awesome?
fun guy. He's a good dude.
Yeah, I don't know if he's shooting anymore or what. He kind of fell off the face of the earth, but he's such a awesome dude.
I don't know. He's a great guy. I really like him.
The one thing is you look at Kenny Terry's match from this morning, and it's 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. He's literally just going on the freaking terror of the world. It's just
it sounds like Kenny sacrificed a goat last night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dad already ate one at one of those what do you call those places? The Brazilian meat places.
Yeah, we're 50 minutes in, and I had at the beginning of my notes mentioned that Kenny Terry won right off the bat.
Attaboy. Good job, Kenny.
Yeah. Anyway, so we went out there this week. I got talked into doing silicon carbide on the Gen 3. So I went there, I did the silicon carbide, I got some straight lines. It turned out fantastic. It doesn't bite my hand, but it's perfectly grippy. Kenny Terry sends me a Seattle slug. I throw that in the gun, and I'm like, I'm happy. And then Jared talks to me on Friday, and he says, hey, there's the night match this week. Would you like to go shoot the night match? And I'm like, I want to get some rounds in before this Utah IDPA state thing, so I'll go shoot it. And so then we get together and we head off into the night. And so we go there to shoot the night match, and I had a lot of fun. At the night match. There was a lot of activators and a lot of moving targets.
Yeah, holy crap.
For 6 stages, every stage had almost seemed like 2.
Yeah, every stage had 1 to 2 activators, if not including a Texas. Every single stage, I think, had a Texas star practically.
Yes.
One stage had a double, and it was a crap ton of activators. And I'm like, what are you guys? I mean, this is fun, but this is a terrible match flow.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man, it was great though.
I mean, how was the match flowing out then?
Well,
that's what killed him last year. Was it grounded into the ground?
That's what happens every time.
Yeah, they had this. They had this kind of bigger field course, one that I became intimate with the field on, and that one took basically an hour. But all the other, we didn't have any backups anywhere else, just on this one gigantic kind of field course that they had.
Yeah, but when we did arrive to the field course, we had 3 of our guys leave because they were like, we're not waiting another 2 hours for this crap.
Yeah.
Because apparently the last night match, they had to wait like an hour or something, and it was just this terrible disaster of waiting.
Steve never finished?
No,
Steve stayed.
Steve
okay,
stayed.
cool.
Finished. Steve and Ryan finished, but yeah, we lost people as the night went on. So we basically had lost 5 or 6 people by the time we got to our 5th stage.
Yeah.
5 out of 6 stages. So anyway, we show up there, we start shooting this thing. I'm having an all right time. Steps having a good time shooting his staccato, and you know, I had the plan of being aggressive and shooting aggressive stages and trying to put the sights on and pull the trigger fast and not do dumb stage plans. And I had a heck of a night. Like I shot well.
Tom really shot well. He kicked my ass. 10 out of 10. Just looking at the actual scores, I thought, like, shooting next to Tom, I thought I was like, oh man, I'm going so slow. I was doing so bad. And then seeing the scores at the end of the night, it's like, oh, maybe I shot okay. Tom just shot killed
that
it.
Well.
And he sacrificed his body, which is what's most important.
I fell on a stage, ate shit, got up, and still shot the 3rd fastest time on the entire match on that stage. So like I had it. So anyways, we get to this point where we're sitting here and I'm shooting well, and it's you're laying on a cot, hands behind your bed. You get up, you pick up your gun off a table, stow a magazine, charge the gun, shoot a Texas Star, and then there's about like a 30-yard run to the next hallway where you have to shoot through ports. And I take about 2 steps after shooting the Texas Star, and I go down like hard. So I go down, take a chunk out of my left hand, but I got the flashlight on, and so I'm trying to keep,
It's a good thing it wasn't a SIG.
Yeah, try to keep the finger out of the trigger and try to keep the gun down range. And so I literally rotate the gun like this, strictly down range, and then I like try to keep the muzzle up so I don't have shit.
How you did it.
Don't have shit go in the trigger.
Yeah.
And set it off.
He becomes a meat crayon for a minute.
And so I gash up this thumb, and then this palm one is this nasty big one that I got in there, and then I tore at my knee. And then so my new silicone carbide that looks so good, then I scuffed up my silicone carbide and then decided to bleed all over my gun. And so I'm going there, I get up, I thought I was on the ground for 5 seconds. And then I literally am watching the video that Jared shot, and it was like, I eat crap, get up. Because for that second, I'm like, Steve should say stop. But then I'm like, wait a second, I haven't broken any rules, so he's not going to say stop.
That's the beauty of the night match.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of janky stuff, and nobody's going to stop you.
No one can see you.
Yeah. The only thing you can call accurately on a night match is a 180 with weapons mounted lights.
Even John.
Why is that light flashing at me?
The best part is the guy who's shooting nods. Freaking John, I love him, but like no one could see what he was doing.
No one knows what was going on.
He had no lights. So he's just like.
He's shooting a PCC with dual tubes and an illuminator. We're like literally.
Yeah, that's actually pretty dang cool.
We're like literally like going through it and being like, "You done now, John?" Yeah, I'm done. All right. Unload and choke, because you have no idea. And the other part is too, what's funny is like when he's shooting the steel and there's always the fragmentation that kind of comes back off of steel targets, like it's even scarier for some reason when it's just the darkness. It's just darkness. It's like being slapped. Like if you have a bag on your head and you're being tortured, just like people slapping you. Like where's this coming from?
Well, it was really cool on a bunch of the stages because it was pitch black. You couldn't see anything, and then all of a sudden you just see these sparks against the iron, against the steel, and you just see these little bit of sparks, and you're like, haha.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
It was pretty fun. I was happy. I did shoot pretty well. I was excited about it. I took there's no overall in USSL, but practice score competitor doesn't hide such wonderful things.
But you beat a bunch of people with a rifle.
Yeah, and 30-round mags.
Yeah,
so
you had some sort of poor person's Glock.
Oh my gosh, this is the most jank Glock there is. I mean, it's a Gen 317 frame with a Brownell slide and barrel and a used Delta Point Pro, and a second-hand Seattle Slug, but with a first-rate silicone carbide, and it was absolutely fantastic. Jerry let me borrow his Surefire X300U, and it just was a good night. Like I ate it and I felt bad and I felt like kind of like dumb. And the other part is too is like I got the jitters about falling again for the last 2 stages.
Really?
Yeah, like I told you, I've told you guys before. If I think about going down the stairs, tripping down the stairs, I will trip down the stairs. Like I am not good at this walking thing.
You also had very large boots. Why were you wearing those?
Because I figured I was going to be on my feet all night, so I wore the padded socks and the big Keens.
10 out like big old boots.
I'm like Goku, man. I need my weighted clothing, so that way when I need it, I can shed it and go fast. Yeah. So we went out there, did that. So it was a great match, and falling. Like I've never fallen in a match in the 12 years I've done this. I've never fallen in a match with a loaded gun. I've fallen on a full speed walkthrough, but like I feel like I've earned the right to talk shit about everybody who does it because I went down in the dark at night, kept the gun squarely downrange, kept my finger off the trigger, and just ate it, and then got back up and then shot a freaking kick-ass stage.
No, there was, what was it? It was up at LTD one year, and I cannot remember who it was, but
it was Felipe.
No, it wasn't Felipe. That was funny. No, but it was one of the guys. I'll think about his name later, but he goes running from left to right. He trips, stumbles, he falls, and that gun, he like jams that gun all the way down range, and he actually does a complete roll on his back. While he hits the ground, gets back up and finishes the stage, and it's like, okay, that was actually pretty impressive.
Yep. Yeah, it's
a barrel roll on the ground.
Falling for the first time in a match with a pistol. Mine was a little bit weirder because it was night, but like it's an interesting time because you're like, this day was gonna come, and then it's like this day's come, and it did it. And so, but what
I went and Brett and I were practicing one day. And it was in one of the bays, and I took a step and I slipped on one of the fault lines, and I went down. And the one thing, as I'm sitting there falling, it was I always stuck with me because like I had the presence of mind enough to know to jam that gun down range.
Yep.
I mean, like everything else could hit the ground and take the brunt of it, but don't let that gun hit go flying up range and point at Brett or something like that.
Yep.
I was always proud of that I had enough like mental throughput to be that safe.
If I had the will and could see all the targets through the barriers, I just would have shot them all prone from that down position. That's what I would have done.
I would have let you, and I probably would have given you minus second penalties on it because that would have been cool.
Oh
yeah,
man,
it was a good time. I was enjoying it. I also wore the new Dominate Defense rigid belt. Jason sent me one of those. It was fantastic last night. Even when I ate crap, it kept everything together. And
very rigid.
Very rigid. They are.
He has a new rigid belt.
So the inner and the outer have a liner inside.
Oh, I've got that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know the belt when you hold the very edge of it, just the edge, not the middle, just the edge, and it stays straight all the way to the end, and you're just like, wow.
That belt obviously found Viagra for belts.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, it was. I always liked the contouring of the original belt, but I put this on there, and it really was pretty weight supporting the whole night, and I really did enjoy it. It's a fantastic product. So check him out. PARA10, save 10% off your order. And Precision Holsters. I used my mag pouches last night because I had to wear a light on the gun, and eating crap, doing everything secure, fast reloads. I like them because I can tighten them down, and they still have enough. Like just the tiniest of the lip, where you pull it, they're out. They're fantastic products. PARA10, save 10% off that, and then an hour in the show, you can actually go to Telegram and ask us questions, and then we'll try to answer it, or we'll just leave, whichever one comes first. Go.
Leaving works well. From Alex Wendt, is it really a match if you fall down and don't ND or shove a Glock in someone else's stomach? But seriously, what kind of pistol light do you like?
Step, you probably have the most experience out of anybody here with the pistol lights.
If I was going to buy a pistol light right now, it would be an X300U Turbo.
Why?
Because it can shine the light really far, and it always works.
Okay.
The end.
Is it really that? That's where it is right now. That is the one to get.
Well,
that's what I would get. I mean, you have honestly, Streamlights are good. Streamlights are great. Streamlights do everything that a Surefire can do But
well,
I don't know what's been going on. I've had a lot of bad luck with streamlights recently, where actually I've had lights fail under actual shooting. We did our night shoot qual, and you always have streamlights. They're always streamlights. We always have streamlights fly off guns during the qual, and our night qual's only like 20 rounds, and they're all torqued down to spec. And so I mean,
does it have the right plate thingy in there?
Yeah. And so it's the weirdest thing. I don't know. It's just after everything I've seen, streamlights are they're great lights. But if I was going to get a light that I would have to trust my life with, it would be a Surefire. If I was going to get a light that I needed to shoot at a competition and just needed it to light up everything within 20 yards of me, Streamlight's a great choice. Hell, Enforce is a fine choice. O-Light's a fine choice in that case. Yeah. But if you want a light that you can say, no, this light's going to work when I need it to work, and it's going to let me see what I need to see, for me, that's Surefire.
Got you.
Like I have, so like messing around, and Alex brought some of his lights out, his handheld lights, but having the U, not the Ultra, not the Turbo on last night. Like I didn't have any problem seeing stuff that I would want to engage with pistol ranges. The one thing I find kind of weird is like stuff with like the Turbo. So the Turbo's the new one, and it has that very focused candela spot. So it's like 100 and 150 yards. It's got this very fine focus beam and does not project as much flood as the Ultra does. And so I kind of wonder, because it seems like, and Andy had a handheld light he was showing us, and which has that very, very focused spot, but not enough flood. So it seems like there's lights that seem very good because they look like they're good for shooting people where they are. Mm-hmm. And then there's lights that are a little bit better for like searching. Like I have a Streamlight 7A.
About like the angle.
Yeah, so it's a more dispersed field of light. So like I have on my carry gun on my MR920, I got a Streamlight 7A, and it's got the great switches on them. And you fire it up, and like 25 yards, 30 yards, you're definitely not going to see it as well as you would with a Surefire Ultra or definitely a Turbo. But you get a much more diffuse sense of light out there. So if I was looking for something, it would be a little bit easier to kind of spot out. So it's a very much a trade of what you're looking for. I think for a rifle light, a lot of those high candela lights can do it. But there's a lot of good choices, and the difference between the lights we have now versus the lights we had 15 years ago.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like when you used to have the old Streamlights, and we used to I can kind of make out a white silhouette at the end of the gulch, which is about 80 yards deep or 90 yards deep, depending on where you were standing. And now it's like
lights it up as good as day.
There they are.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Surefire seems to be the way to go. But it depends.
Mod lights are also fantastic options. They're expensive, and I don't know, the mod light, for whatever reason, the mod light weapon mounted light, I found that it doesn't work in a handful of my holsters, and so that's frustrating. And essentially the new Turbo Surefire is, for all intents and purposes, a PLVH2, a mod light PLVH2, which is the nicest light out there in my opinion. And so the Turbo's basically the same thing, but I know for a fact it'll fit all my holsters, and that's a huge part as well.
Yeah,
because it's not just
because that would suck to have to change all your holsters because you bought a new light.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so those Surefires, that's why I don't want to say I'm married to them, but a little bit.
I got you. From Alex Mansfield, did Jon have enough light for his food pictures while on his recent travels with Robert and the guys at Area 4?
They tried. I swatted them to make sure they didn't douse my food pics with like 3,000 lumens.
You do post a lot of food pictures, and they all look wonderful.
Yeah, until you see the bill.
Does Robert go with you when you're out eating fancy, or does Robert just like sit there and eat bread?
I'm not Steve.
Hey, I like my Jack in a Box companion, Mr. Koski. Watch your tongue, sir. Watch your tongue.
No, it's fun. It is fun. one of the neat things about traveling with John is I will inevitably go places I never would on my own, and so that's always a bit of a treat. So
like strip clubs or what?
Yeah.
Not yet. Not yet. Not all the way yet, boys.
They know John at every Ruth's Chris there is in the nation. Oh, Mr. Bautista, we didn't know you were in town, sir.
No, let me put it this way. Ruth Chris, the stuff that John usually eats, Ruth Chris, is like going to McDonald's.
Ruth Chris is peasant food.
Uh-huh.
This is kind of true.
Like $200 for a steak? What, is that coming out of like Jesus or something?
It's a resurrected cow.
2,000 years old aged meat.
Let's see here. Also from Alex Mansfield. What are John's thoughts on Tony's checkmate setup in his rig?
Okay.
So what's the checkmate setup? Just talk us through
First of all, we should call it the Sigmate, okay? And it doesn't even start with the gun. It starts with his gear. So if you're looking at Tony Wong, my good pal and friend and disciple of the House of Speed, you're going to see a man standing in front of you. And if you look closely, there is not only one, but two mag pouches. And that seems okay. However, they're configured in a V pointed directly in the middle of him. So one is pointed left and one is pointed right. Then you continue to ask the question, why is there two? Because if you look deeper, not only is there one double alpha race holster, there is two double alpha race holsters, for one for the right-hand side and one for the left.
The problem is Tony actually, he was going to the Cowboy Action match, going to be and shoot that in the dual wielding class, and he got lost and showed up at an Area 4 match. So
it gets even better. It gets even better. So he throws me his magazine. I look at it, and I'm like, what's this? It's a Sigmag. He uses Sigmags for his checkmate. And then when you look at the checkmate,
because they work.
When you look at the checkmate, there's not only one gas pedal, there are two for each side. And you know what? It balances out quite nicely. So his thought process is, if I ever have to shoot strong-handed, it's half strong-handed because I could switch left or right. It is a abomination, to say the least, but I'm all for it, and I love watching him shoot.
Well, is this literally just a game single-handed stages?
No. Tony is fully invested shooting left-handed. Not only that, when you list him or watch him on practice score, his name will dictate what he's doing. So was it Robert? Was it like Laufhans? Yeah, that's for his left-handed only name. So he's shooting all of 2022 left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Boggles my mind.
26.
Wow.
Hey, GMG 26.
Yep.
I can't doubt that, man. I can't do it.
It's because some people play this game trying to get better. Tony plays this game to figure out what's possible.
Because he's bored.
There's probably a lot of that too, but he makes it look really good.
Good for him.
He shot PCC with no sights, just laser. I mean,
I always hate those cops when you're like, okay, strong hand, weak hand. They're like, no, this is primary, this is dominant, and this is support hand. I don't have a weak hand. I'm like, eat a dick.
Shut up, mister. I listened to too much primary and secondary.
Well, then you look at the target and it's like, I thought you didn't have a weak hand.
Yeah, it looks like both your hands are weak. You T-Rex ass fuck. Oh, man. So many wonderful things in my world.
Let's see. From Alex. With He-Man taking office very soon, should he ask the board to reconsider some of the bans or let them stand and not continue to stir the pot?
Well, some of them are permanent. Some of them have already been overturned. Like the Pat Brown one was overturned, and I thought that was very fair. Like I don't think that should have gone that way. And I don't like this. I'm of two minds of the Stoeger ban. Like I don't think he hasn't done himself any favors, and he kind of did like the thing where you file a lawsuit but you do it in the wrong county, so it doesn't count, sort of thing. So it's like I got myself back, but the one thing is like whatever he wants to. go his way or whatever,
Well,
and the board can ban him.
He sends very contrary position, because he's like, I'm not going to go and get involved in their kangaroo court. I'm not filing an appeal. And then he goes and he like files an appeal by sending it to the wrong person and posting on the Instagram. And then because the USPSA board never got anything from him in the official way that it was said to, which is really funny, because for a guy who's all about the rules and having like solidarity with the rules, you'd think he would have taken the time to read the fucking rules.
Dude, that's like Super Karen 101, man. Yeah. I don't know anything about this Ben Stoeger guy except that he used to be a god tier shooter, and now it sounds like he's turned into a god tier Karen.
I'm gonna go with that. Yeah.
Honestly, it just sounds like everything that I hear from him is he's trying to get social media, social justice warrior points, and it's just absurd.
Well, there is a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. So my issue is not particularly with Stoeger. My huge issue is I believe that the reason that he was actually moved away from the sport is not a good reason, and it's a very gray line, and we shouldn't mess with it, because how many listeners or how many subscribers do you have to say before you get thrown out for doing whatever you say? Because there's no objective reason. There's no one can quote me what's like the net loss that he's provided to USPSA, or let alone the net gain. All we have is at a certain point he hurt too many feels and his audience was too big, and so now he gets removed. And that's a line I don't want to see happen. So, and it's not because
I think you're responsible for what you say.
Well, that's fine. We can all be responsible for what we say, and it's a freedom of association. It's a private organization that they can have it. But the one thing is you cannot have people able to remove other people, because these are like elected offices in the sport. And at what point does like spicy criticism in the way that like a lot of people like to discuss certain issues, and we're not free of that at all.
Certainly not.
So it's like, so where does that become? And the problem is with Stoeger is that Stoeger had the ability to probably promote a candidate in every single area to run against people. And so it's like, how do we quickly dismantle somebody who could probably rally 30% of the electorate against us? And so it's like it becomes a very vague thing. Like, he's an asshole. He did it wrong. He did it wrong.
Instead of actually being a badass and doing a full-blown coup and taking over the entire world, he just went to Whole Foods and whined and wanted to talk to the manager.
Well, yeah. Well, it was. Look at all the stuff I'm doing to get back in the sport. Also, I'm not doing things that I need to do to get back into the sport. Like I
just don't get it.
It's pure. It's just drama and hype. It's just drama and hype.
What do you expect? He's a narcissist.
But I'm just drama
llama.
But I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about like, what if people what if Niels Jonasson has problems and decides to run, and he's got a bunch of Instagram followers, and he says some things that are possibly true about USPSA. What if there's actual things that are going wrong with USPSA that actually need to be brought up? And like people that have legitimate voices in it and decent sizes can be like tossed out because they might hurt somebody in an area election. Like, sure. This is not a good road to have.
Well, I think the difference is Ben Stoeger has never in the history of his life ever been an honest broker, ever. He says whatever he says to basically give him as much credit as possible. He's always been that way. And you can always see this, because whenever he goes and he puts out one of his stories or Instagram posts about something that you actually know about, you're like, wait a minute. He's posting this, and what he's saying is only half true. And while there's truth in this, he's not posting the rest of it that would have given you enough context to actually make an informed opinion. And because of that, you have people that have now made a judgment based on this half truth. That's a problem.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Stoeger will be forgotten. I mean, this game turns over membership like every single year.
Right.
In 2.5 years, he will be forgotten.
Yeah, well,
you can see this very clearly, because if you show up at the matches, they don't talk about him. He's a has-been.
Well,
and now he is somebody who once used to be a part of the organization.
Well, the one thing is the sport has forgotten all its greats. Well, that's like even the people who haven't had any problems. This organization has forgotten. Like, how many times have how many times have the newer shooters ever heard about Dave Savigny and Dave Savigny's run in the early days? Like, so there's and like Todd Jarrett, like.
But that's the point, Tommy, is the turnover in this game. People forget all too quickly that this is a game or a sport of disposable income. And people come into this game and they play it for a year and a half to 2 years, and then the money runs out or the interest changes.
Yep.
And they're gone. And they
Yep.
never come back. So it's constantly changing. It's constantly bringing new blood in, and we're losing old people. And so the histories and the traditions that we had from ever since the early days of IPSC and all the way into USPSA, they don't carry over because the old hats are gone.
Yep.
I mean, unless you have somebody like the Walkies who've been around and they're just the OGs, you don't ever really get to understand that.
Well,
people look at the Walkies and they're like, oh, they're these old guys. But you're like, no, these guys know what they're talking about. And that's why when they say something, you shut up and listen.
Yeah, but I don't mean to be rude here, but I don't respect the Walkies because they win. I respect the Walkies because they know what they're talking about. They've been in the game. They've done all this stuff. They've worked their asses off. They've done a ton to help the sport. They do a ton to help every single new shooter that shows up. That's why I like the Walkies. That's why I love Steve Terry. That's why I love all these old guys in our sport right now. It's not because they're winning. It's not I don't care if the Walkies won 10 years ago or if they lost 10 years ago. I don't care if they win now or if they win later. I love those two guys because they're absolute studs for the sport.
Yeah.
That's who we're going to remember. That's who we're going to actually care about. We're all going to love Steve for forever because he's done a ton for the club.
100%.
I don't give a shit about some random guy who shows up, wins a bunch of matches, moons everyone, and then does a backflip off his own personal boat into Lake Powell. And he says he's awesome. Like no one cares about him.
Yeah.
Like no one cares about your abilities to do XYZ. No one cares about your abilities to do a 0.8 draw and 1-1 splits. No one cares about those. It's what have you contributed to the community and the game? That's what gets you remembered, I think.
And the one thing is, like, as far as Stoeger goes, is like I haven't paid much attention to him in the past 4 or 5 years. I think 8 years ago or something, I think there's a lot of people who were very much listening to the podcast and learning, trying to figure out how to get better and stuff like that. So I can't, and I'm not around the guy, so like I can't speak to his character, but I can tell by the stuff I've listened to his podcast and looking over the stuff, like this was not handled in the best way. And so like as far as my view, like he in kind of a way, he not only did a disservice to himself, but he did a disservice for the way he was actually removed from the sport. And like we needed some way to challenge this so it didn't happen to other people with legitimate gripes later, and it just went the wrong way. So, but if it was up to me, he'd still be in the sport. So,
meh.
Yeah. No, I mean at the end of the day, to answer your question directly, Yeeman is one person of 9. He can come in, he can go and say, this is the direction I want to look at. Let's look at some of reversing some of these suspensions, and he can promote his idea. And if his idea has merit, then let's pursue that. And if it doesn't, well, then there you go.
Yeah, well, these are all individual cases that should be taken as in individual cases. The problem is we got a bunch of them all at the same time. So now it's become it's like Bandsville, right? We had Bandsville, so it's like, oh, what are we going to do with all the Bandsville cases as if they are all the same case, which they're not. And there's definitely people who did things that should not be in the sport.
Yeah. John, you got to go.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Bandsville, I got to bounce.
All right. Bye, John.
Boys.
See ya.
Bye, boys.
Bye.
All right, we're hammering the rest of these questions by Mr. Bautista. The meth lab's about to blow up downstairs.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, from Josh, what's the right IDPA division for the stock rival with iron sights, SSP or ESP?
Well, if it's completely stock, as long as I think the rival comes with the magwell, so as long as you remove the magwell, you should be fine for SSP.
Okay,
so
easy enough. Would any of you change major power factor rules? Add 9mm major to limited, add major to production carry optics, lower major power factor, etc. Change the point values. Why or why not?
No.
The sport's not broken. I know we're looking to fix something to take out our new rules tool, but remember that we're kind of upset with a lot of things because of the rules that kind of got dropped into place, and so I don't think that there's a reason to switch things out. I think in the future you might have to do something with probably with something with limited or bring other guns into carry optics, but I don't think that there's a need to change power factor. I think that's actually pretty far down the road. I think you could probably change bullet diameter in something like limited, but power factor probably not.
Yeah, I am inclined to have a conversation about anything. If you want about changing any of the divisions, I'm very much inclined to talk about stuff like that. But you know it, man. I'll see you later tonight. But honestly, the biggest thing that I notice more than anything is that every single time that we talk about changing something, we're talking about taking things away from people, and I don't like doing that. Like, oh, we're going to change this division. We're going to get rid of major power factor. We're going to do this, that, and the other. And I just don't think you can do that. And further, it's like, well, let's go and add this new division. Well, okay, fine, let's do that. But what if we add this division? Is it going to bring more shooters in, or is it just going to take people from another division? And the problem is, I've talked to a lot of people, and there's been a lot of ideas and things that have tossed around, but none of them really seem to have a solid answer that actually enhances the sport without otherwise just cannibalizes it.
It's just tinkering because there's not a problem.
Yeah, and fundamentally, it does come back to the idea that if we're going to make changes to these divisions, I still think that the people who, if we're going to change them, the only people that should be allowed to vote on it are the people who are in the division, because they're the ones who will be most affected by it, by you making those changes. I think it's great for a revolver shooter to come in and say, yeah, we should lower power factor to 115 for all major. It's like, well, you don't play the game, so what do we care?
Right.
Yeah.
So no, and I could see this argument having a lot more merit maybe 5 years ago. Yeah. But now with the introduction of carry optics, it honestly, I feel like carry optics killed a lot of these nitpicks, because for me as a newer shooter to the sport, I shot limited minor for I don't even know how long, 5 years, and it was obviously a significant disadvantage to me. But I shot it because it was fun and because I primarily, I liked 3-gun and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't want to shoot 40. But now that we have carry optics, I think a lot of those people who are coming into the sport wanting to shoot their fun gun or their whatever gun, they all have dots.
Yeah.
And so carry optics now has created that thing where, you have to aim a little bit more, but honestly, you have a dot. You probably should.
Yep. Well, the other thing is
I think carry optics fixed a lot of that.
Well, carry optics was the thing for me. Is like, I like shooting service pistols. All the service pistols have dots. I can leave production now and go shoot service pistols with dots and still be very. You can still be very well. I can't be competitive. What am I saying? But
true.
People can be competitive with those type pistols, and so it's like
people can, not Tom.
Not Tom. The other part is too is like in the divisions that aren't being shot, they're not being shot, so they're not even really divisions anymore. And let's let limited and open. Let's let them go through their life cycle and see what happens.
Right. There'll always be a place for a good iron sight division. There'll always be a place for a good, crazy, open division.
Yep.
Carry optics, I think, is that Goldilocks middle zone, and that's why people are flocking to it like crazy.
Yeah. If there was a caliber that gets introduced that somehow makes limited or shooting major power factor much more viable or cheaper or safer, well, we'll have a good time with that. The people will gravitate to what is going to help them, what they perceive is going to help them in the sport. So we shouldn't take things away from them. We'll just wait for things that are better to come along.
Right.
And when things come along, then there'll be an obvious reason to create a division for them, like we've done since the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way it's going to end up being. Because at the end of the day, I don't have the heart to steal from somebody who has something, and to me, that's what it always feels like.
Yeah, and I'm much more open to like, you 2011 guys, you want to shoot your staccatos? Just Take off the magwell, come to CO.
Hey.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's such an interesting debate, and I think that's why I say I'm happy to have the conversations about them because they're interesting conversations, and it's funny. I mean, people get so emotionally wound up about it, and rightly so because they've invested a lot of time and energy. I genuinely feel bad for all these production shooters who they were born as a production shooter in this thing, and they thought they were going to die in production, and they've quickly realized that production is dead. And it's never coming back. There's nothing you're going to do that's going to bring that back because why would you ever want to shoot that division?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got a news for you. Like the production CO.
It kind of is now.
The guns comes with dot mounts. You put a dot on it. They come from the factory that way. You need less magazines.
Really, I feel like they just, if anything, what they need to do is they need to consolidate our low cap divisions into one division called low cap minor, where you can have 10 rounds, and low cap major, where you can have 8 rounds.
But they don't even need to do that because no one shoots them.
Right.
You don't need to consolidate what's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it actually hurt my feelings. Was it 2 or 3 matches ago at Slipsa when there was more revolver shooters than production?
Right.
I mean, that was I saw that in the sign up, and it kind of like your heart drops a little bit because you're like, this once was this great and vaunted division, and it's just gone, and it's like, shit, that sucks.
Well, and then I look at the carry optics heat and I go like, oh,
So
I got to race my way through this, and then I forget all about production.
Yeah,
because you're not competition.
Well,
that's right. Well,
I got to sort out those C and B class folks.
Hey, but at least you're not cheating and stealing.
Yeah.
So I guess you got that going for yourself.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
It's not much. And safety, gun safety. I got gun safety.
It's not much, but it's honest work.
It's honest work.
From Baron Lantern, can you use the same gear in IDPA and USPSA?
You can use the same IDPA gear and then move it into USPSA, but it doesn't work vice versa from USP to IDPA.
Okay.
Just mainly the issue.
What about the holster position? Does it
holster position can be dropped and offset in IDPA now as long as you're fat enough. So holster position cannot extend past vertical in IDPA unless it's in contact with your body. So you can have as far out from your offset as you want. As long as the love handles are in full contact with that grip, you're good to go. But until that, it's vertical. The other thing that gets you is the double belt situation, because the double belts are not allowed in IDPA.
Right.
So it's generally like a carry gear. It is a good idea, like those mag pouches from Precision Holsters. They're good in both sports, and they have their clamps, so you can just unclamp and put them back on anything else and move them around. So they work pretty well, and they work pretty well on a single belt. But honestly, like the funny thing is like IDPA, especially in ESP and carry optics, and are so much more open in the modifications you can make to your gun than USPSA, that it is kind of like buy a light mounted holster for your CO gun and then have a regular holster and like some mods on your gun for IDPA. So like honestly, just get yourself a pretty decent holster that you can draw out of, and you'll be fine.
A lot of what I'm just going to do is I'm going to take I have holsters and mag pouches, etc., that I have on a belt that I Velcro on for the IDPA stage match. I'm going to take those off, and I'm going to put them on a belt that just goes through my belt loops.
Yep.
So it's
I actually think the IDPA idea is dated and it's sort of dumb.
That's kind of IDPA in general.
Well, and hear me out. Yes, actually true. No, it's just, I mean, like they're like, okay, you have to have a single belt. Well, why? Because this is supposed to be everyday carry, but nobody's using CompTac pouches as their everyday carry pouches and things like that.
Right.
So why are we still playing that?
Because then we'd have to get
neighborhood.
Because then we'd have to get into the terrible thing that played IDPA forever, which is subjectivity. Well, that's not really a carry. That's not really a carry holster. Well, you weren't really in cover, and so you just make a rule book and you just go with it because like as the great Steve Koski once told us, it's a game and the game has freaking rules. And these are the rules it has, and so we're going to live by these rules. I mean, I'm very hesitant to go down the road of that magazine pouch is too far off your body and that holster's too far away from your body and that that belt buckle's not really made for everyday carry. Like I don't want some 43-year-old marksman trying to make a notch on his belt by discussing what's legal or not legal on my gun or on my equipment. Like it's in the rule book.
Speaking of which,
I'll run there.
At the Carolina Classic, they had a really interesting way they were doing equipment and chrono.
Oh yeah, Ben Berry had a video of this with Jessica Hook. I saw this. This was pretty. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Oh, cool. So yeah, you shot the stage, and it was a short course. And so what was it? It was really quick little thing. So you shot the stage, and they came over and they had a bag, and they said, "I need you to put 8 rounds in here from your magazine." So you thumb 8 rounds in there, or give a new magazine or whatever, and then they seal it up. And they walk you like literally right next door where Mr. Ben Berry is sitting there working with Stephanie Berry, and they're doing equipment and chrono check. And so it's stupid efficient. It was so damn efficient. It was amazing. But it says, put your gun on the table and go through. They do this. They do the equipment safety check, and they do what they always do with my gun. They try and thumb that safety on. I'm like, yeah, it's a stiff safety. He's like, oh yeah, it is. But it works, so we're good to go. They fire around, make sure that everything's all good. Have you holster the gun back up, and then Ben comes over and he's like, shooting CO. Yep, and he takes the card, make sure that your holster passes equipment and everything like that, and you're off to the races. It took all of, I don't know.
I think hers took 43 seconds on the video for hers. Yeah, it's pretty efficient. Well, that's the benefit of having a guy like Ben Berry out equipment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but
that's nice.
You don't get one of those guys every day.
No, they did great. They really did good. I mean, there was nothing about that match that I could complain about. It was just so exceptionally well done.
So you'd go again next year?
100%. I feel the same about that match as I did the Georgia State match the year previous. Those guys back there, they just do such a damn fine job that I would plan a match around that. I mean, if I could do Georgia State and Carolina Classic in one weekend, that'd be like you died and gone to heaven.
Well,
perfect.
Talking about planning, let's try to plan something else for the rest of our day. Do we have any more questions? The show's getting long in the tooth.
Yeah, we do that anymore. No, let's just cut it here.
All right, fine. We're cutting it.
Questions.
I told you guys. I tried to get more questions out of you, but Robert wouldn't handle it. He just wouldn't have it.
No questions. We asked the questions here.
I'll ask more if you want. I mean, but
lightning round. Go hit it. Lightning round. Do it.
Did the PARAcast squad take a moment of silence for Ben Stoeger? No.
No.
Or no.
No.
I may have laughed.
No.
That wasn't nice. I shouldn't be that way.
I cry for the state of USPSA because of it.
Are there any downsides of allowing small diameter bullets in USP, assuming power factor is the same?
How small?
30 super carry.
30 super carry, 5.7. Yep. So I actually was talking to Nate.
Just velocity.
Yes. Velocity does things to steel targets, and a lot of clubs only have pistol-rated steel targets. If you start sending rounds that are running faster than the normal, they're going to start destroying those steel targets. That's one of the biggest issues you're going to have with it. And so that's something that's, I think, is probably the biggest concern, honestly.
And definitely, like, there becomes the capacity issue. Like, all of a sudden, then your 140 millimeter magazine now holds 27, 28. And so you would basically, the thing I would hate is, like, it would become a niche caliber for a game. So it becomes literally a game caliber instead of a shooting.
You mean like 40 Smith & Wesson? I mean, objectively, right?
40 Smith & Wesson starts at one side of the spectrum and then moved into the competition. 30 super carry, like, you can have for, like, developed for concealed carry, but eventually it would become like 30 super comp. Like, there's not self-defense pistols made at 30 super comp, and there's not a lot of self-defense pistols that are made in 7.62 caliber projectiles, 30 caliber projectiles. And so, like, we would turn our game into, like, there'd be kind of like it'd just be a game bullet.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm not for that.
38 super.
Shooting silhouette.
Correct answer is
38 TJ.
Gay.
Yeah. I want to shoot silhouettes. I want to shoot silhouettes with service calibers.
I'm getting close to announcing an indoor rifle match, the weekly match I run. Any ideas for rifle-specific stage design that would be interesting at an indoor range, 25 yards max?
Oof.
Yeah, use reduced size targets. like really small stuff to create your technical positions, and otherwise, just know that you're gonna it's just gonna be don't make it too hard, make them fun. Stages fun are the best. So give people think of it like the USPSA speed courses. People just want to show up and shoot a rifle. They don't care if it's like the most super tactical great thing in the world. They just want to shoot their gun. So give them a place to do that. Create some stages that are fun to shoot. Let them move in and out of position. Maybe set up some teeny tiny targets that create a shooting challenge. But otherwise, just have fun.
Yep.
I would say just take a bunch of walls and build yourself like a little close quarters battle scenario, and then do it like that, like you're making a level out of Call of Duty. Like kill a house in Call of Duty. You build that. You put little paper targets up close. You shoot them with rifles. You do the third floor of the Osama bin Laden spot, except for you put a couple more people and a couple more leaning heads. But you can have full-size targets that are actually reduced by the way that they're positioned and leaning out, and that's another way you can do it. Make them like short, fast, dirty rifle shooting, like 5, 6, 10 rounds.
But make them like that. Fun.
Make them fun. Make them push, be quick, make the shots hard.
Yeah. At the end of the day, make the match fun.
Yep.
Yeah. If your match isn't fun, no one's gonna come.
Also,
again,
loading rifles is cool. Loading guns is cool. Spending $8 million on ammunition is not cool.
You know we just discussed about production being dead, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the deal: is like indoor matches, like have some stages that have downloaded magazines. So you fire 5 shots, and then you have to perform a reload in the stage. Like, that's fun.
Do a bill drill into a hostage, and then into a hostage target, and then
no.
shoot
I like
at
what you
a
first
hostage.
said.
Yeah.
Then shoot the hostage again.
And then move.
Get some ballistics gelatins that you can dead check on the ground as you're walking through.
Hey.
Last question. What are your casual pants of choice? I love my LA police gear, urban ops pants, and I need to replace a few due to wearing them hard for 5+ years.
I find that Costco provides me all the outdoor pants at an affordable price that I love. The Jerry's, the Ovias, all the jazz. I like getting the WeatherTech ones, like not WeatherTech or whatever.
I don't know if I'm old now because of this, but I've got like fancy Patagonia, cool, all that, the Gucci expensive pants. I have those. And the pants I wear the most and the pants I like the best, fucking Costco.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hot dog and slacks.
I like Levi 514s. They work really well. I'm happy with them. For shooting matches, I get hiking pants.
Yeah, hiking pants.
Yep, hiking pants.
Tom's got the blurs.
I got the blurs. That's the camera developing cataracts. It has time for us to go. So thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, downloading, subscribing. Thanks for hanging out for an hour and 40 minutes. Thanks to Jon Bautista for coming in. Steve Koski couldn't make it. Congratulations to Kenny Terry. And good job on me for not killing anybody at the night match. Anyways, so for Robert Wyatt, Jared Stepp, Jon Bautista, I'm Tom Nelson, bidding you peace, love, and souls. We depart into the open waters and the sea of life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Good night, everybody.
Dope.